Okay, Mr. Moreno, it looks like if I do a search, I've got Mr. Mullen logged in. I have got Ms. Rios logged in. You're here. And Victoria Coronel, Ms. Cornell just now gave her permission to enter the room. I'm not sure if Mrs. Lawson is going to be here on time at all. She's had a kind of an emergency thing show up on her calendar related personally. So she said she was going to try to log in from her phone, so to speak, but she may not be available. So just to let you know. Other than that, it looks like we have a quorum. And other than that, I think up to you on whether or not you want to start the ball off on this.
All right, so let's go ahead and start the meeting so that we're conscious of time and so forth. And Virginia can join when she's able to. I'm well aware of what's going on with her right now. So let's go ahead and start the meeting if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Good.
So related to the agenda, I've had no questions from any board members related to any items on the agenda. So I don't believe there's any necessary need for any change to the agenda. So with that, I'm not recommending any changes.
All righty. So to get business going for this evening, I'll ask for a board motion on this evening's agenda.
And you're going to be muted, so
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Victoria and Alma. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. How about you, Palmer?
Mr. Moland is at the district office to make a public comment. I'm not sure. I know that he shows that he's logged in here, but I'm not hearing him either.
It's aye. I'm sorry, I was on mute.
All right, aye, 5-0. All right, I'll ask for approval of the minutes for our August 13th and August 17th board meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Abstain.
So let me do the math. So that is 3 ayes and 1 abstain. Okay. All right. So with that, I'll just start off by saying good afternoon and welcome you all to the virtual meeting of the Fairfax School District Board of Trustees. As with each meeting, we are always pleased that you've set aside time to kind of join us. So again, thank you all for being here. This meeting is held in an open setting to encourage a bit of transparency and accountability for all. Our hope is that by conducting these meetings in public, it will give you a better understanding of just how the school district operates. And although the meeting is intended for the board to conduct its business activities, we do welcome your comments, and there is a section on the agenda to hear them. So if you're ever interested in making a comment, please contact the superintendent prior to the meeting date so arrangements can be made, or inform the secretary of the board prior to the start of the meeting. However, just make note that public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes per agenda item. So before we begin, I do kindly remind you that you are all welcome guests, but I do ask you to show a bit of courtesy and respect while observing our meetings. We all know with technology have come some challenges, so regretfully, any persistent disruptions of the meeting, excessive background noises, inappropriate gestures and comments, unfortunately will get you removed from the platform. So help us out if you can, take a moment, mute your microphones now. And again, thank you all for showing an interest, and I'm glad you're all here. All right, with that, any public comments, Mr. Coleman?
Yes, there is one public comment from Mr. Moland.
All righty, go ahead, Mr. Mullen. It's 4:35.
But I would like to say that there has been public comments that have went over 3 minutes. So maybe we should look at putting a timer, but I'll go ahead with my public comment. I'm I've been living in Fairfax School District for some time. I worked for the school for many years. I have had a reputation of the willingness to help and serve my communities wherever and whenever needed. I think that the board should keep Zoom meetings longer than 30 days before deleting them. We have a group in the community that helps pick up trash on Monday. I've created a nonprofit organization for students to keep them off the streets and off of drugs, and provide avenues for them to play basketball, taking them out of town and out of state, using my money to help them, the students that are underserved. We also look for people to help clean and sterilize our play structures in Tyner Ranch. I bought a bulk of masks for some of our people that cannot afford masks, because when I went to school, they were covering their mouth with t-shirts. Also, I bought some community, for the community, I bought disinfecting spray. As I worked through with Fairfax, I created jobs as a manager for teachers, counselors, students, and staff, and their children. I'm really known for helping with the haunted hallways, mansions, and getting donations for carnivals. Health information, I think my health information was recently part of a topic of the last board meeting, which I was not at, but there's many people that have had the same type of health information, and it has not been a part of a public board meeting, and it was not verified, the source of that information. First off, I would like my Facebook privacy to be my First Amendment right and my Fourth Amendment right to be recognized. I do not consent to people taking things off of Facebook. And it was also made mention that I was very hostile and this and that. And I've worked for Fairfax over 8 years, and I've never had this issue. I was a manager, and I never had this issue. I've had board members call me to say that they're not board members, but district office members say that they were going to come to my house several times. And if I was as hostile and this type of person as they have made me to be, why would you want to visit my house? I feel like my child education has been affected by these negative comments, because, you know, he has the students, his friends, they have parents, and some of them do listen to these Zoom meetings, and they really don't understand, and they've reached out to me. I don't understand where these comments are coming from. But again, I've also asked for food banks for our population that need food. I've asked and sent emails for us to start helping with food bank.
Yeah, so your
I made a comment.
The 3 minutes are up. You want to wrap it up really quick?
I just want to say I made a comment about mask wearing after the board had approved a policy. And after that, it seemed like people thought I was targeting them, but actually I just didn't want them to go through the death experience that I went through. So I don't want them to mistake that as me targeting them. And that's pretty much my main concern there as a public comment. And I can speak on other issues on the board report. So that'll be the end of my public comment.
All right, thank you. All right, any other public comments, Mr. Coleman?
No, sir.
All right, we'll move right into recognition. You have the Empowering Employee Award.
Yes, superintendent recognition. Prior to this, if I could just go on record here, and again, I very much appreciate the nutrition department for all they do. I seem to be a healthy young man, and from time to time, I have my obligation to make sure that what's being given out is good and healthy and yummy. And so I go over, and I'm always greeted nicely by the junior high staff there, sitting under a pop-up canopy, and we chat a little bit. We talk about the amount that they're having to give out, and then I test the food. Tough job, but it's very well done. I appreciate it very much, and I just wanted to give a shout out to them as well. I think I would be remiss if I did not say that the technology department in entirety. Mr. McKenna and his entire crew are representing the district very well. I'm very proud of them and just appreciative of all their hard work. And that brings me to our Empowering Employee Award. And I was running a little late today. Typically, I try to throw a picture of the person on the screen. But if you've ever run across Marisol, you pretty much have that picture of her in your head. You know that you never see her without a smile. And so that's why we have affectionately nicknamed her in the district Sunshine. But I want to recognize, because a few of the employees from various sites actually reached out to me and said that this individual really needs to be recognized as somebody that puts a wonderful face, a positive face of the district to those that she interacts with. And a lot of those interactions are community members and other employees. And so for this month, I would like to recognize Marisol Uribe. She's been with the district in a number of positions. I think when I first came to the district, she just was, I think it was when I was just getting into the superintendency. She was just coming on to the district. It was in ACES and just has moved up and onward. She spent some time at Zephyr Lane, and I was able to steal her away from Zephyr Lane to the district office. And then as reductions happened, I want you to know there was a few people that had to be chosen from, and we never had to make the difficult choice because she stood up and said, I'm the most qualified of the two, given my background at a site, and she took the move. So I want to just recognize her publicly. When you get here, you get a beautiful little Empowering Employee Award, Marisol. I know it won't buy you even a cup of coffee, but we hope that you recognize the fact that we appreciate all that you do. It does not go unnoticed, and you are truly just a champion of Fairfax and those that dedicate the meaning of empowering employees. So with that, I just want to say congratulations to you. Are you here? Can you acknowledge that you feel sufficiently embarrassed virtually now?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. I just wanted to say I've been with Fairfax School District for 14 years now, and I'm very happy to be an employee with the district. I've been at several sites, and everywhere I've gotten a chance to go, it's always been it's been an honor to work there because there's always great people. So thank you.
Very good. Well deserved. Thank you, Marisol.
Okay, I wrote, I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, I have a paper, and I wrote it because I've actually never seen an employee. I work in my tenure at Fairfax Junior High, I've never seen an employee smile so much, be so positive, and, really enjoy what they do, and, really have an effect on the kids. And me and Marisol happened to work at Fairfax School District. I was the basketball coach, and she was the ACES lead. And we actually competed for the district office position at the same time. And I said, Marisol, I just don't know. Like, I don't know. How do you think it went? And, she gave me some pointers on some things that I didn't know. And so I was like, okay. And I was very grateful for that. And I would like to say that working with Marisol and around Marisol Uribe has been a privilege and an honor. And I have known Marisol again for many years through my tenure working at Fairfax, coaching, us being after school, waiting for the buses, and for my kids that are in ACES coming in basketball practice. And she has always been helpful. She has always created a positive environment for the staff and the students. And I mean, when you say you want to see the face of a school district, when I walk into the district office, I always see a great smile. And I'm going to tell you that I've never, ever seen someone smile, be so helpful, be so positive besides Marisol Uribe. And I'm kind of shocked that it took this long for her to get this type of recognition, because it is long and well deserved. And so congratulations to her. I really think she deserved that. And again, I know it was a competitive process for us competing, but she gave me some good advice. We've been Facebook friends, and I just, I really think that she's well deserved of this.
All right, and then in regard, continuing along my report, on the superintendent report, the enrollment engagement numbers I thought I would share with the board. Our enrollment, if we're talking regular ed enrollment, as of this last Friday was 2616. Our total kindergarten enrollment is 233, which is far better than what we started off with. So we're approaching just maybe about 50 below what we were normally having. And so we think that that's going to come around. And so that is much better than what we had originally started with.
One more time. So 2613 in comparison to last year, where are we at?
We're about flat, a little bit below because of the kindergarten, but it's improving.
Okay.
We're held harmless on,
Right.
on the revenues, but we're in real time, we're about flat to a little below.
Right, but we won't be held harmless to
Year and a
subsequent.
half, yeah, next, given that, that's correct. So that being said, I just kind of wanted to share that we are average K3, the high is about 24.6 to a low of 22.12, depending on the site. Average K6, 25.23 low, 26.17 on the average grade, average per grade, per class, excuse me, site-wise.
Sorry, because now on those averages, are those customary numbers?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we're 30 to 1. We load 30 to 1, 4 through 6th. We load 24 to 1, TK through 3. By agreement, we can float up to 26 to 1, K3 site-wide. So I give you, for example, Virginia Avenue, their K3, TK through 3 average per site is 22.12 kids per class.
Let me ask it a different way then.
Yeah.
There aren't any classrooms that are or individual teachers that are overwhelmed and are in need of help.
Yes, there are. Right now we're struggling. We have some full classrooms in various classrooms, 4th, 6th at VA, 5th at Zephyr. I mean, what we end up having to do is try to overflow where we can, because obviously if you're 3 or 4 over at the grade level, you're not going to hire a whole teacher for that grade level. You're going to try to figure out how you overflow accordingly. At some point in time, depending on the grade level and the enrollment, it might become necessary to hire. But we monitor that, pretty much on the daily right now. And make those decisions.
You recognize it, and there is somewhat of a working plan in place to try to.
Yeah, this is every year, and especially in the first part of the year, it's important that we know where we're at and how when we make the decision to have to open a class or not. And so we make those decisions, yes.
Okay.
Engagement, which is a little bit different this year, right? I mean, we're talking about an engagement would probably equal actual kids coming to school daily, like that ratio that we would always look at. A little bit different this year because kids aren't actually coming to school right now. They're having to engage either synchronously or asynchronously. For us, for me, it's all important, right? I mean, whether they are engaging somehow, shape, or form, synchronously or asynchronously, we look to see what's their total engagement. And that total engagement has been very high. And it's been, it's been a pleasant sight. However, for me, I look to say how many kids are synchronously engaging. In other words, how many kids on average coming to school or being on a Zoom or live link, so to speak, on the average. And so Shirley Lane, if we look at the 4 and who we would say last week, as of last Friday, who would have won that race, so to speak, we look to say that last week Zephyr Lane had 88.22% of their kids log on, actively live link and participate on an average. Goes down to Shirley Lane at 79.82, VA at 77.09, and then junior high, a little bit different, harder to guarantee because they have periods and different periods and different days. But the best mathematical equation we can get to a weekly number on that is just about 67% synchronously. If you add asynchronously and synchronously, each one of our sites are well into the mid-90s of kids participating on a full distance learning environment.
Can we go back to, sorry, one last question.
Yeah.
And again, this is what happens when you bring these numbers up during this type of report. Now I have a question.
Understand.
Going back to the teacher to student ratio, help me understand what, because I didn't completely forget, but as I'm talking about overcrowding, these are all distant learning students.
Correct.
I imagine, and I totally could miss mark on this one, but I would imagine 30 remote distant learning kids is very different than having 30 kids in the classroom.
If you asked a teacher that, I'm gonna say yes, it's different. It's a different feel, but the requirements of how the teachers are being required to actually direct engage students that haven't been engaging or providing direct instruction and alike, it's going to be a similar workload. The teachers are, quite frankly, probably feeling more overwhelmed at 30 than they would in a normal.
I mean, just a simple having to track everybody down.
Yep.
And that adds to the burden. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that for me. All right, thanks.
So I have a question in regards to that. So the ratio is 30-1. So how is the teacher able to monitor 30 students at one time on an iPad? Are they having to go through different screens to be able to see all 30 students? How are they able to visualize student engagement with 30 students and one iPad?
Well, first of all, teachers aren't using iPads anymore. The district, through COVID, they each have an Airbook, which allowed better use of Zoom and allowed them to see their entire tile at the same time. Plus, Zoom asynchronously is logging in through Canvas. They know exactly who was on the Zoom and not, even a day or two later. So there's management tools available to the teachers. Plus, teachers are superstars. They can manage 30 kids and have an ability to, set up an entry-level, activity as teachers do, and then can quickly go through and determine who's here and set up their course accordingly.
So my concern is with the elementary school. There was, like, as we discussed, there was a national shortage with the internet, and Zoom basically, students had trouble logging in, and I know my child had trouble logging in. So how did we consider the attendance to be accurate when we had several students having trouble logging in? Some students, they didn't have the internet, and so when they did connect to the internet, it had to restart. I know with my child, his iPad, when it was time to start school, was completely dead. And then once I charged it, then it was not directly connected to the internet. So all of the other students' work from the previous year, all their assignments were still on there until I connected it to the internet, and then it rebooted. But at that time, it was after the attendance had been taken. So how did we count those students?
Attendance is a positive attendance, a little bit different. Teachers go in and they can actually adjust their attendance up to 4 days after, and that's
okay.
That's not just a school thing. That's a pretty much a routine thing done. It was suggested, I think, by CDE. In fact, I'll let Laura speak to that if I misspoke that. But the situation is, if the kids were able to get on and log on through Canvas, and actually their teacher can actually see them and notice that they're there, then they didn't have an internet problem. And when we're looking at an internet problem, we felt we were going to have the same concern, because it was report that was given on most of the channels in the morning. When we started a week before Kern High in Bakersfield City, we're going to really see what happens when all the cell towers get hit and when the internet happens and the like. We did notice, and in fact, I gave an update to the board, but we did notice a small, short bog down in that first Monday back. That's true. And then I think even in the short return to work hours around 1 o'clock or so, return back from lunch. But in conversations with Mr. McKenna and his crew who log tech calls, and in conversations with principals who keeping track in their office about tech calls and connectivity issues, we did not see that. We are not noticing that. And with the synchronous number, it's proving it. We're not having that type of situation. Now, individually, sir, that might happen. And we know that there are some people, but
these are things you've addressed in email already and got sent out.
Yeah.
For the sake of time.
Fine. Connectivity numbers, I just want.
I'm just asking, I'm just getting clarification because I know what happened with my child, and I know that maybe I'm assuming that it should have been hooked up to the charger because there's carts with chargers on them. So I wasn't expecting to have a dead iPad. That's all I'm saying. And there was other parents who had the same concern.
Right.
So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, there were iPads that got handed out after, to start the year whose batteries were low or dead, and there was some residual, but that got resolved, and we've moved on.
Thank you. And I'm just asking because there's other people that want to hear the explanation. So it's not just for me, but it's for anybody else that had that same question. And I thank you for your response.
No problem. No problem. Related to connectivity numbers, we are running all of our connectivity issues through the PERC. And just to let you know, just numbers that were provided. Presently, we have provided, or there has been outreach by 134 households in our district saying they need connectivity to be effective on distance learning. We have provided at this point, as of yesterday, 110 of those households. We are waiting arrival of there are 24 then waiting on equipment. And we anticipate that by this Tuesday, all of those 24 will have all of their equipment and hooked up. That doesn't mean that 24 have been without the connection since the beginning of school. A lot of times what are happening is people are through our outreach are finding out that there is resources available. Some of these people are maybe being inventive and going out to their neighbors or hooking up through stuff or running out of their allotment on their hotspot and the like, and it causing problems. So this is really just about providing better resources to be more effective distance learning. So doing really well on that.
Well, yes, but there's still 24 people that don't have connectivity, and I think we all understand the disparities between brown and black communities and the inability to access technology, and we all saw the story with the 2 kids outside of Taco Bell up in Northern California and what that did to. So we can't do that. Can't happen, and I'm not insinuating that it's happening for us. So I would and again, it's not our issue. Artificially, it's our issue because it's our students, but it's not our issue. But I think we need to figure out a way how to fix that a lot quicker, somehow.
Right, and Mr. Moreno, I agree with you. I'm not arguing with you. I 100% agree with you. Again, I want to emphasize though that this doesn't mean that those 24 people don't have internet. It means that they, at some point in time, in fact, all the people that have told us they do not have any means of internet whatsoever, those we got taken care of. We're getting calls now that say, you know what, I'm hearing that you have resources that are better because right now I'm having to use my hotspot and I'm running out of my hotspot. So can you help me with better connectivity? And that's what we're talking about now. We've reached that kind of level of better connectivity.
So I'm not naive to all of this because I've heard the stories up and down the state and across the nation where there are people who it's for some, not saying it's our community, but for some communities, when people hear that there's something free, they want to take advantage of something free. And sometimes that might skew the numbers and so forth. But I think it would be great just moving forward and for the time being is that if you can add some sort of I don't want to say daily, but ongoing numbers reporting of where we're at with connectivity and who, where are those gaps at? And And I would hope that, by next week or by next board meeting that we report that we have 100% connectivity elsewhere. But just keeping that, I think, on the forefront, I think is going to be important for us.
Yep.
So I appreciate that.
Yep, no problem. Definitely understand. And we agree. We'll continue reaching out, and as we know, and remember, we also have it's very important as we find children that are not engaging and home visits and contacts are being made, that's the number one question. Are you not engaging because of connectivity? I mean, those are ways in which we can reach out and find that out.
And one last question: where is Spectrum in all of this? And because last month I asked about Spectrum.
Spectrum. We gave a list, a complete list of all of the addresses within our district boundaries. Their program allows for those homes that do not presently have service through them, that also have a minimum level of backbone support to the actual physical structure. So they went ahead and analyzed every one of those addresses, and it came back that 340 something, just under 350, were eligible for their program. And then in comparison to those eligible addresses, we looked to see how many of those people have reached out saying they need connectivity. We had a minimum requirement of 50 accounts, and so we took 50. I think the original need was 36. And so all 36 of those homes have their equipment already, and majority of them are hooked up. They have to, it's actually a self hookup. They have instructions in their home language on how to hook it up. And if they have problems, then they can call Spectrum. And so it gets hooked up and away they go.
So back to these 24 though, these 24 weren't part of that qualifying group?
They may or may not be. I think 9 of them, I don't have it, 9, if I want to remember, Mr. Quintero, I think 9 of that were, and they're waiting on their equipment to be delivered, right? So we just said, okay, release these 9 addresses, send them out. And so as soon as, again, we're at a secondary level. So it's not like they've been waiting for 3 weeks. We've now known, hey, we've got 24 more. Okay, well, 9 of those are eligible for Spectrum. That's our preferred because it's not hitting a cell tower. So we let Spectrum know, and typically they're 2 or 3 days from letting them know. They're pretty fast ship out. So it's pretty good.
So I think I'm pretty clear. I think you hear that we have to figure out how to get these folks internet quick.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We believe that we've got a pretty good process in place. It comes down to outreach and communication, and then we move from there. So we will give you a look on a daily deal or every other day to see if anything's moving up and down and sideways. We will definitely let you know that. I want to announce to the board that we have been granted, I think it's a state program, the state testing clinic, mobile testing clinic for COVID. It chose Fairfax to come out, and they will be in the Zephyr Lane bus loop. Nurse Kelly and Mr. Quintero from the PERC kind of worked on lobbying them to say, hey, our community is ripe for this service. We're in a high impact area and zip code, and I was just real excited when they said, yeah, they got the permission to go ahead. I think this is the same group that was set up at the fairgrounds, but I can't 100% be sure. They will, as soon as we're waiting on their approved kind of announcement that they want to use in regards to advertising it, because there is a process. It is by appointment, and so as soon as we get that from that organization, we will use our announcement, parent portal and the like on.
I've asked. I know we've discussed maybe using the Parent Resource Center as like a health center, or potentially designating a different place for a health center. So if we happen to do get a program like this, maybe we can designate somewhere that's inside because of the air quality and because
They won't do it inside because it's a small condensed area. They're looking as almost like a drive-through where they can distance and do it quickly, and so it would not be inside. That's
So will we have canopy and shade structures, misters, or do we have a plan to keep people
we're providing the drive-through area. They're providing their program, and so I would imagine that
the way the federal program for the surge testing from the federal government for COVID is drive-through. So it's all drive-through.
It's more like how CVS does it. You drive through and they give you the test through
you'll get they'll hand the deal. Evidently you do your self swab and hand it back, and there you go. So yeah, I was excited that we were bringing the testing to our community. It's going to be open to all community and all and pretty much anybody. So anybody in the community and our employees. So
insurance or no insurance or not?
No, not insurance. It's
federal.
Federal. Come get tested. So
okay.
Yeah. All right. And then just on facilities, the junior high drop off is mostly complete. Yes, just to answer the question, those telephone poles and that kind of weird old curbing to the new curbing, all of that stays until PG&E and the county finished their work. PG&E did finally get through their engineering. They intend to move the power poles to the other side of the street, which is great. And then there's other conversations related to the county about how they're going to handle Fairfax Road between Shirley Lane and the junior high. And so just to let you know, though, that drop off is mostly complete.
Good, Mike. Because of me, I think we've spent a lot of time in superintendent's report. So if we can move on, anything I think is important, maybe you just send an email.
My last item was just an update the board. Small school cohorts. We are working with the teachers union and schools legal. Cohorts are pretty much at a draft area. We're looking to start September 21st. I'll send a board update more that would answer even more questions. Then on the waiver, it was pretty clear from the board that they wanted that the board wanted the closure to be consistent through the first quarter. However, as this is looking, we may or may not be back at second quarter. And given that, it's looking like now is the time, if there ever was, to submit a waiver to the state. Waivers are only good for K-6, but it is certainly something to discuss because I'm going to tell you that most districts around the county, and I would not want to be the one that doesn't, are going to apply for a waiver. Later in the discussion today, we're going to discuss a need to revise our reopen plan accordingly, and it's kind of linked to that anyway. So just to let the board know, we have every intention. We're working with the unions and legals to put together a dynamic, at least an appropriate, well-done waiver so that it's not kicked off on any kind of technicality, and we'll keep you informed.
Okay, we'll pick it up on the next one.
Yep.
Okay, any board members report? And Palmer, please be conscious of time. We spent a lot
I'm going to try to be as conscious of time as possible. There are some things I'll try to go through very quickly and submit for public record. I know that we received a letter from Jean Manzares, and she was writing about mostly wanting teachers to teach from their classroom and not have the option from teaching from home because of lighting, props, backgrounds. And she was just urging that the district, our board, approve that all teachers teach from home. As being a former teacher and being on the side of Teachers for Everything, she just really thinks that it's important for teachers to teach from home. And she's imploring the board to allow teachers to teach from home and a small, at least for a small portion of the day, 2 to 3 hours, and create maybe some office time from school. Another thing is, it has come to my attention, and I received some emails about the board members, certain board members receiving emails that other board members did not, and so people might be need to be aware of the Electronic Communication Privacy Act, the USCA 2510. The disclosure of such information is strongly prohibited because of the Brown Act. So sometimes when they email one board member, we don't always get it. So that assumption that everyone gets all the emails, that's not necessarily true. There was also a mention that, certain items with the budget reduction plan, that there was some singled out items that people didn't like. They said that there was one board member that voted to take one out, and I implored them to go back on the Zoom meeting, and it was a 3-2 vote. So it was very important to have the facts. And a previous statement, it was also made about, the Facebook. There was a comment made that did not state a district, did not state an employee name, and it was assumed that it was me. And a district employee commented on that, and they were concerned. And they did make a statement, that as a godly person and a person that makes different comments, that they shouldn't do that. But I went to a workshop, a webinar over the past 2 weeks in regards to Facebook posts and things like that. So I'm well aware of that. There was some mention of board bylaws in an email 9005.1, and also some civil section codes. And I look for direction from my board president when it comes to board bylaws or civil section codes that I don't understand. So I think when it comes to an employee sending me emails telling me that I've violated certain board bylaws, I think they should address the president, and we can move from there. Parents and teachers have contacted me regarding meetings. They say that our board meetings should be more student focused and not have personnel issues. Parents and teachers do not feel conversations should be deviated from the main purpose of board meetings, and that's student focus. I agreed to the purpose to change the way we do personnel, maybe go into closed session and then come out with our decision. I also want to say that prior to August 13th, I had sent an email out that I will submit for as a public document, removing the item J1, which was about the the rescinding of the teachers. So there was emails still being sent out, even though that the board had discussed it, and I had asked for that item to be removed. So I don't think that KFTA was aware that I had sent that email out, but I will submit that for a public record. Also, there was an email that also will be submitted for public record, and this is the last thing that I'll say. I'll read the email that came from the teacher. It said, and it was from the teacher's database from their school site, which is not supposed to happen, but it did. And it says, I apologize for not getting out sooner. Tomorrow, Thursday, will be a monthly board meeting, and I'm hoping we can get as many as you as soon as possible. Many of you are witnesses to the shameful and erratic behavior exhibited by some board members during the last meeting in regards to rehire for our teachers. Ultimately, those teachers were hired and began working. Now, according to the board agenda, some board members are attempting to reverse the decision and, for a lack of word, unhire those teachers. I do not have any reason to why they would actually do such a thing, but most of you have watched the meetings and could probably conclude on your own idea. I promise you that KFTA and CTA are not taking those actions lightly, and the teachers who are members have the full and complete support and protection of our union. Regardless of their affiliation, we cannot tolerate the treatment and blatant disrespect for profession of our work and to succeed. Again, please find this a time to watch tomorrow. And like I said, I did send an email asking to cancel that after we received the information that we needed in regards to that. So the board does discuss things, and sometimes you guys may not be aware. So just think about the board's role in their decision. And that's pretty much it. The other letters will be submitted in case anybody wants to review them for public comment.
All right, so move right into consent section, business and contracts. There are,
Javier?
Yep.
This is Virginia, and I want you to know I'm here. I don't know if you see it or not, but I've been here. Okay.
I did see you log in a little while ago. I just didn't say nothing, but I saw that you're there.
Okay. I've been here since Marisol was getting her her award. So anyway, I'm on the phone, and I don't know if you can see me or not, but this is really weird. I'm here. I'm listening.
Yeah, we got you.
All right, so going through, we have consent section, and so business and contracts. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9 items in the business consent section. I'll ask for a motion to take action on these items, or we can speak on each item individually, depending on how the.
Let's do each item individually, because I do have questions in regards to some of the items in this section.
Tell me which items you have questions on, and then we'll vote on the others.
It would be the acceptance of donation. Is that part of the F section, or is that a different section?
No, that's this section. All right, donation, and then what, the Albertsons?
Okay, donation, the contract renewal of KCSOS, SELPA, and the contract renewal for the agreement for utility and custodial services.
Okay, so I'll pull those 3 for individual approval. I'll ask for the motion to move on items 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, and 9. Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion on 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, and 9.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. That's 5-0. All right, Mike, give us an update on the donations from Albertsons. Quickly, if you could run through that one.
Yeah, we received, Richard put in an application or a grant or request for a grant award. Albertsons was offering said grants, and we received a $25,000 grant. Inside of that was a certain amount for the purchase of mobile cold storage bags in the anticipation of having to bring lunches, breakfast and lunch to the classroom in an alternative kind of setup when we come back on campus. And then the rest was in $50 Albertsons cards to be handed out to needy families in our district. And so Mr. Quintero and Mr. Andrews are working together to determine how those will be handed out.
So will we get a list of those needy families, or
PERC is going to be handling, PERC will handle how we handle, who is needed to get those, those cards, and we'll hand those out accordingly.
I've noticed that with the cafeteria, there's been a lower number of enrollment, which we talked about. And my concern was, what are we doing with the food that's left over? Because we still have needy families that would benefit from that food. So can you just explain to me a little bit what we're doing with that food that's that's not being picked up?
Well, I'm not sure that a lot of it goes to spoiled because a lot of it is able to be, stored in cold storage, so to speak. I can't speak 100% to that, but I can get you that information. In speaking with the current education pledge superintendents today, we're in line with what other districts in our area. Right now, we're somewhere around 35%, which I thought was exceptionally low. And is exceptionally low, but not in comparison, according to Kern High and Greenfield and the other surrounding superintendents that I was on a call with today. So I felt good about that. They did just change to summer seamless, which will help a lot as well. So
I'd like to stick to the topic.
Yep.
Albertsons. So what are any further questions on Albertsons, Mr. Plummer?
No, I just wanted to know what the donation included. That was pretty much.
Good. All right. If there are any additional questions on Albertsons? Okay. Any motion to take action on accepting the donation?
I'll make that motion to accept the donation.
Second.
Victoria and Alma. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. All right. And then you have the KCSOS SELPA contract. Mike.
this is an annual contract. As I shared with the board on my update, it was for July 1 through June 30th. This allows us to move students of special needs that we aren't able to handle, so to speak, or teach. And so this allows us in participation through the SELPA. So this is an annual renewal of the contract and asking the board to approve it.
So what makes us not be able to handle those students? Is it because we have mod severe?
Yeah, but we only have
right?
we only maybe have one classroom of mod severe, and the type of services that a student might need, when you pair it with the students that we're currently serving and the amount of additional support that might be necessary, when the county programs can serve that student better, more efficiently, is always something to consider when we need to. Our mod severe is more the mod to severe, so to speak. And so again, it goes down to a continuum of services. There are a number of students' disabilities that we're not able to provide services for because we just aren't that big. We don't have that many students that would require that specific type of service. And so that's why you use a SELPA where you can, kind of put students of similar disability where necessary, where we can. We're always wanting to serve the students here first, but when we can't, we have to have a place to provide. And this is what allows that to happen.
So why do we pick the contract with KCSOS versus Bakersfield City School District,
because
who has their own
city, they have their own SELPA. We don't. The county superintendents, the SELPA for the county superintendent provides those services for a goodly number of
cheaper cost?
Could be, yeah. And quite frankly, we're not Bakersfield City, so we wouldn't be, we wouldn't be in there. We wouldn't have our children there, so to speak. So, there are only a very, very small amount of times that we would interact with another SELPA that's private, for example, or, individual like Bakersfield City. That would be when we're having to share transportation costs, and that's a legal thing. But again, districts other than, Bakersfield City, I think Panama just tried to start their own SELPA. But for the most part, even Panama was an entity inside of this SELPA. So it just comes down to what's the best for our students. And then, you can probably also look at cost as well. But,
okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, a motion to accept the contract renewal.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Palmer, Victoria, all in favor?
Aye.
Alma, Virginia?
Aye.
Okay. And
let me see if Virginia here. She's on. Virginia, can you hear us?
Aye.
There we go. All right. And you wanted to know about the renewal on the utility custodial?
Yes, I was wondering what that entails. What type of utility and custodial services are they providing for us
No,
that we don't already have? Is it
so-
just the bus part, or are they
No, so-
actually?
On the update, we provide this service for them. They are operating out of a classroom on the junior high campus. They own the classroom. It's on our campus. They provide this amount of money for us to for our custodial to put the classroom on the cleaning schedule, and they provide a certain amount of money to offset their cost of utilities that would be created by their classroom. So this is an agreement that they pay us because of operating a class on our campus.
Is that the classes that are on Fairfax's campus, Fairfax Junior High campus?
That's correct. It's the one.
Oh.
It's the classroom there's two. There's A1 and I think A9 or A11, whatever it is. Yeah, A9. So yes.
Oh.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mhm. Mr. Moreno, you're muted.
Got it. All right. I'll ask for a motion to
I'll
vote.
make a motion.
Second.
Okay, Victoria and Alma, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you for that. All right, moving on into educational services. We have a contract renewal, shared library services with Rio Bravo Greeley. This was the shared, or go ahead.
I kept it the same as last year because we had a discussion on it. It was new last year. People were concerned about the total number of hours. The board agreed at 15 hours maximum. They only used 2. So, but I kept 15 because it was last year. I increased the cost to account for increased personnel cost on our end. But really, it's a renewal. There's nothing new other than what I just shared, and it's no real impact other than providing assistance to another district. And so I'm recommending the board approve the renewal.
Have they talked to you about interest in using any other entities that because of the increase of cost, or are they looking to expand to where they're going to have their own? Have they
They're real
expressed
small.
to you any interest?
They're real small. They would love to have their own librarian. They just can't afford it. And having a school librarian is a lot different than we even looked at it at one point in time, trying to actually hire the services of a county librarian that worked at Beale, and it was separate in its whole credentialing situation. So I can't answer the question directly, but I do know, talking with Mrs. Whiting, that she's exceptionally appreciative because they're really in a pickle if we can't help them. So
Thank you.
I'll ask for a motion to renew the contract.
First
I'll
motion.
make that motion.
All right, that's Alma, and then I'll give Victoria the second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. And then finally, in consent, we have a couple of resignations in personnel. So I'll ask for a motion to accept these resignations.
First motion.
Okay, Alma. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Virginia?
I can hear on here.
All right,
Fine, it's my computer.
Virginia.
They're asking you.
All right, we'll exclude her from this one because she's having technical issues.
Okay.
So that's 4-0.
You're not muted.
Virginia, can you hear us? Are you aye or nay?
Hang on.
Okay, never mind.
I voted for it, but I
Okay.
guess it didn't go through. It comes,
Okay.
you come and go.
All right, 5-0.
I know.
Okay, that is the end of consent section. We'll move right into business and finance. We have the
I don't need that. I can hear it.
actuals.
It's my computer.
All right.
Can we go through those individually? 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, yes, we will, because it's in regular business. Mr. Manita, do you want to go ahead and share? I've let you share the screen if you want to pull up your.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. As we mentioned earlier, I'm going to be discussing the unaudited actuals for the district, and these are the district's year-end financial statements. They contain all the revenue and expenditure data for the entire year, and it's this data that our auditors use to conduct their audit and complete all of the audit reports. And at the end of this, the board will need to vote to approve the unaudited actuals. Just wanted to touch on really quickly where we're at in the budget cycle. So here in September, we're reviewing the unaudited actuals. In a couple of months in December, I'll be bringing the first of the 2 mid-year financial reports for 2021, as well as the audited actuals after the auditors complete their report. Then in January, the governor is going to begin releasing his budget for next year. Shortly after that, I'll provide the second mid-year report, which is the second interim. We'll begin crafting the LCAP and next year's budget, which will then be brought before the board in June. So again, just a quick snapshot of where we're at and where we're going to be headed this year. So there's a lot that's changed since the last time we talked. The last time I presented was at the July 1 budget back in June, and that also included estimated actuals. Since then, the books are now closed. We've posted all of our year-end entries, and now we actually have finalized ending balances and reserves. One big thing that has changed is the guidance that we received for the account coding for COVID expenditures and revenues. So we'll talk about that a little later. So I'll start by talking about the revenue. And again, just a disclaimer, all of the figures you're going to see are coming from the unrestricted side of our budget. So overall, unrestricted revenue closed $230,000 lower than estimated actuals. That was driven by a $310,000 decrease in LCFF revenue. And I did want to touch that is not a decrease in LCFF revenue as a whole, but rather just an acknowledgement of a transfer of deferred maintenance or to the deferred maintenance program. It's just the way that when we move money to the deferred maintenance program, it all rolls up in a line that rolls to LCFF sources, LCFF revenue. So again, it's not a decrease in revenue overall, but just an acknowledgement of the transfer to the program. Now, federal revenue did decrease by $55,000. That was because Medi-Cal revenue had been coded to the unrestricted side during the county offices apportionments. I moved those to the restricted side just to align with the expenditures with that program. Now, other state revenue was up by $28,000 for one-time reasons, primarily things like the lottery, where our revenue was based on estimates and our actuals ended up coming in slightly higher than those estimates. And similarly with local revenue, just due to one-time receipts, one-time refunds, things of that nature, it ended up finishing up $107,000 more than estimated actuals had projected. Now we'll look at expenditures, and again, these are all on the unrestricted side of the budget. In total, unrestricted expenditures closed $1.1 million less than what was projected at estimated actuals. Now within that $1.1 million is a large chunk of COVID expenditures. That's $763,000 of COVID expenditures that were moved from the unrestricted side to the restricted side. So since estimated actuals, since I had presented that, the CDE and our COE had provided revised guidance that said, at estimated actuals, we had said that, or the guidance was that all COVID expenditures would be coded to the unrestricted side. And since then, they've now opened up account codes on the restricted side and provided guidance that we can now code all those to that side. So that's the big difference here since estimated actuals.
Why is that? Does that have anything to do with the CARES or potential reimbursement for COVID-related expenditures, and they're trying to keep track of it? I mean, what's
it did. The CDE was playing catch up on the accounting side. So the federal government had provided CARES money, and they still had to go through the process of creating the accounting codes for everyone across the state to use. So the initial guidance was make a specific accounting code. It's going to roll up under unrestricted. And again, after all of this occurred in July, they provided the revised guidance that here are the account codes we want you to use. And so you're going to need to move all of those COVID expenditures to those new account codes. So that's what had happened.
I think that's happening across the state with just county government in general.
Correct.
So where is the money that for the estimated actuals and then your unaudited actuals, there's a difference in the amount of money. Where does that difference in surplus go?
It all ends ultimately in the following slides. You will see exactly where it goes, and it goes into our ending fund balance. And again, I'll provide a reconciliation to see exactly how we got there. Do you want me to continue to just go through the presentation? And
that's fine.
Okay. So next, contributions ended up closing at $70,000 more than what was estimated at estimated actuals. This was just due to elevated maintenance costs and special education costs. Again, those weren't finalized until we were actually closing the books. But as a percentage, that 70,000 difference is only 1.5%, so very nominal. But all of this brings us to the change in ending fund balance. So at estimated actuals, we projected that we would have a $528,000 decrease in ending fund balance. And now closing at unaudited actuals, we're closing with a $291,000 increase in ending fund balance. And given any normal year, that would be completely unheard of. But given this is a COVID year, unaudited actuals they were not immune to those changes. So again, that spread between the $528,000 decrease and where we closed at $291,000 is about $820,000. And again, this is directly related to the $763,000 in COVID expenditures that we moved from unrestricted to restricted. That's where the bulk of this change is coming from. So to walk us back to really get us to see where we're comparing apples to apples, I'm going to add to the $291,000. I'm going to add in the $763,000 in expenditures. And if I do that, our adjusted ending fund balance comes down to a decrease of $471,000. So now we're looking apples to apples. So I projected we would finish with a decrease of $528,000. Factoring in the COVID expenditures, our adjusted ending fund balance was a decrease of $471,000, and that's only a difference of $57,000. So as a percentage of our total budget, that's 0.16%. And I think, comparing apples to apples, that is, I think, pretty something we can be confident and happy with given the craziness of this year.
So is any of this like CARES money that came from like the CARES Act to offset some of this?
Yes, so again, the guidance for the CARES Act money, we were not allowed to book it in 1920. That money has to be booked in 2021 because that's where it's been allocated in the state's budget. So again, that's a reason for the change.
Okay.
So that change also trickles down to the ending fund balance. So at estimated actuals, I projected that we would have a $4.2 million ending fund balance. It is now just over $5 million unrestricted ending fund balance. So as a reserve percentage, it's increased from 11.92 to 14.22. I did want to touch, this is a one-time increase to ending fund balance. It's maybe the one gift that COVID has given us is that it's allowed us to increase our ending fund balance. Again, this is really going to come in very handy given the deferrals and the financial challenges that we're going to face in the tail end of this year. So that's just one note. Now, looking ahead, again, I will be bringing the first interim report to the board in December, along with the audited actuals once the auditor provides us our final report. We're going to continue preparing for deferrals. Now that all of the districts across the state have closed their books, all of the trans companies are really starting to ramp up. And so we're going to have a lot more information coming out this month. So I'll continue to keep the board updated on that. And I'll continue to monitor the state and national economies because that's going to impact our budget. So that's really the end of my presentation. I do recommend the approval of the unaudited actuals, and I welcome any other questions at this time.
I know that you just spoke about the trends, and so I know that you've been looking at different interest rates on the trends. So I just want to know how that's going, and if you've found any good trends, interest rates as of now, and any other people that you can jump on board with to get those rates that we're looking for, or do you know what rate what rate you're looking at, like in between? What interest rate are you looking at right now?
Since they're still finalizing the trans pools themselves, so the interest rates are still kind of fluctuating. So I'm still keeping my foot in both parties just to see which one is going to end up. One party that may have more trans pool participants is going to be able to negotiate better rates just because the pool is going to be so much larger. So I'm still keeping an eye out, and they haven't come out with finals yet, but I know that is coming out in the next couple of weeks. So I definitely will need to keep that.
Have you seen any interest rates at all so far, or it won't come out at all until about 3 weeks?
Correct. I have not seen any finalized or even tentative interest rates yet,
Okay.
but that is going to be coming out very, very shortly as these pools begin to be finalized.
Okay, thank you.
Well, mark my words, where are we, September 10th, October 10th, 30 days from now, you'll start seeing the interest rate start slowly creep back up. So
Probably.
that's what's going to happen. So thanks for the presentation. I imagine this is also tied into district reduction plan, and I think the question I have related to that next agenda item is the unaudited actuals that you presented. Do they take into consideration bringing back some of those rescinded items?
Well, the reduction plan was for the 2021 year going forward. So this 1920 year doesn't include, well, it does include one portion where we were able to move the expenditures for the parking lot project over. But other than that, it's just 1920s books.
Okay. So totally separate one. Okay. So reduction plans on the current budget you were trying to close up.
Mr. Moreno, if I could, I'll make one connection that as an ending fund balance is a little healthier, as mentioned, it does allow for the district, to rebench up on any potential, out years from there. So it just helps the district in the medium to short to medium term as well, if there were going to be any type of struggles in the second part of the year, so to speak.
Right, because that's kind of ultimately what I was going to allude at, is that the ending fund balance was a lot healthier than what we thought it would be. So I imagine that would carry over and impact.
That's correct. That's correct.
Got it. Cool. All right. All right. So thanks for the presentation. Any thoughts or comments? This is a voting item. So if there aren't any comments or questions, I'll ask for a motion to take action on the approval.
First motion.
All right, Alma, second.
Second.
Palmer, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I heard Virginia.
I was gonna say, I recognize the background noise. That's Virginia.
I think she was the second one after Alma.
Did you? Okay, so that's 5-0.
Mhm.
Positive. All right.
I heard her. If you want to confirm it, that's
Virginia, did you vote aye?
Kathy.
I didn't hear her.
All right. Virginia, are you here?
Hi,
There she
I'm
is.
here.
All right. There you are.
5-0. Thank you. Okay, with that, move into the GAN limit. Mike?
Yeah, this is an annual resolution that has long ago become not necessary. I attached a primer that if you used a micro glass, you'd be able to read the thing. But what it comes down to is, years ago, back in the 70s, a gentleman with the last name of Gann, a legislator in California, got upset that the state was running away with their spending. And so they created legislation that had to do with putting a cap on the total amount of monies that a district or state LEA could spend on certain expenditures. And so there became this large calculation, and there is a 2-year calculation. One is the actual unaudited actuals, hard calculation that is determined by the real revenues and expenditures. And then there's an estimate on the right side. So in the item attachment, you would have seen not only the resolution, but you would have seen the actual calculation page that comes from the state software. State software, once you press send on all of the closing of the books, so to speak, and you get to the software clears everything and says you're closed. It thereby tells you whether or not you are within the GAN calculation limit or not. We are within the GAN calculation limit. It always is within the GAN calculation limit. Basically, when you're, we go to the C here, when you are looking on page 2 or 3, if you're interested, right under the 1920 actual on the left, middle way down, it shows a inflation adjustment of 1.0385, and then it shows a program population adjustment of 1.0 or 1.01 rounded. The mere fact that you've got 2.85% gap every year growing, you're never going to reach that issue. So that being said, the district does have an obligation as part of the unaudited actuals to adopt the resolution. We're able to adopt the resolution because through the closing of the books, it proves that we're within the calculation limit, and therefore I'm asking the board to approve it as presented.
All right, I'll ask for a motion to take action and approval of the GAN limit.
First motion.
All right, Alma, second.
I'll second.
Victoria, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Virginia?
I didn't hear Virginia nor Palmer.
No, didn't hear Palmer either. Yeah. Virginia? I'm sorry, I'm yelling like I'm calling for people across my office. My apology. Yeah, I'm not hearing Virginia. Mr. Moland, are you there?
It's at my house.
I see him online. I don't see that he's muted.
So let's go with 3-0.
Rio, all right.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move into the next item, which is rescinding of certain items on the 2021 reduction plan.
Yes, this item was on the board agenda a few months back.
I wanted to talk.
Yep, there you go. This item was on the board agenda a few months back. It was not carried forward out of a concern of the
I'm
state
not talking.
budget.
The slash means I talk.
Sorry. I'm going to mute you, Virginia, or should I not? Anyway, so the issue is it's back before the board. The concern about the state budget was somewhat mostly remedied when we saw the first quarter numbers come out from the Department of Finance. We also just saw that our budget is very healthy in regards to ending fund balance from prior year moving up, and that the negative 7.92% COLA became a zero COLA. So the need for that amount of cuts is not there. The board is asked to rescind certain items. We put it over a couple of years in how we rescind it. The certain items in this year, remember, we're asking that it be rescinded from the budget. So even though we're rescinding what looks to be like 1.6 million of what were reductions back to this year, it doesn't mean that tomorrow we go and write purchase orders for all 1.6. It means that it goes into the budget, and then as a normal budgeting process throughout a normal year, expenditures are made against those budget lines as necessary. Inside of that, there are some very specific personnel positions, really only, I'm thinking, 2 specific on this for this year. And the rest, again, are budget lines, like to do with overtime and the like, and other related program services. So given the fact that we can afford it and we need to designate designate amounts from the budget so that our budget ending fund
Get it by
balance
Saturday.
balloon up to
It arrives Saturday.
$1 million.
It arrives Saturday.
Um,
Great. I checked in
bottom line
town.
is-
Nobody has it. I'll get you the cash.
the bottom line is that our personnel work with us, and they,
Yes,
you
that
know,
one's
they
toast.
were trusting of us to do it, and when we don't need to do
I
it,
had it
I think that we need to build that trust and keep that trust by bringing back those positions that are gone are certainly felt necessary. Others would add that we're understaffed in certain areas, and so I would very much appreciate and highly recommend that the board consider approving this as presented.
When you brought that budget reduction plan last month, it was around 567,000, was it?
I think it was 2 months back, and I think, yes, it was 5 something. But what we did this time, as I kind of gave you that backup and explanation, is we looked at the entire reduction plan and kind of gave a target about what should be brought back and when, so in which budget year. And given the fact, again, that we went from a almost negative 8% to a 0, if we don't bring this back, then your ending fund balance by your budget is going to balloon. And that is, again, we need the funds, we need the programs, we need the people. If they were cut, it was because of necessity at the time, when we thought it was necessity at the time, and the timeline did not match up, so we had to make choices. Now we're asking to roll those choices back accordingly.
So if we're going to balloon, what is the point of applying for the trans? Because it's showing within 3 months we're going to apply for a $5 million trans.
That's my point. You're going to want to bring back expenditures accordingly, and then because of how we've set ourselves up, you're going to go out for a trans, and the amount of trans necessary may not be that great. If you look at what we have provided to the board on this item, bringing everything back as we are presenting it to be, the net increase to fund balance this year is $1 million. So we are, and let's be honest, there are more than just us looking at these things. And so we have to show that again, we are being provided money to provide a program. Our program was effective and it was dynamic. And then through the stakeholders that we worked with, they didn't say they liked it, but they've trusted us to take the cuts and to share the pain. And I'm going to tell you, positions are missed. And so now that we can share that given the change in how the budget was adopted, we didn't need to, or wouldn't have needed to, and we should all together bring back those positions and service cuts so that we can provide the program that, quite frankly, was well respected and liked, and being productive. So
I have a question, and I don't know how comfortable you are with discussing it in open session, but I know that one of the items that was on that list was a skilled maintenance worker. Mm-hmm. And my question was, how many skilled maintenance workers are we required to have for a district of our size?
Well, there's no requirement in any legislation that decides how many skilled maintenance people that you need. But I will tell you that it took a long time of people saying, I need help on a maintenance position. We have two campuses in the district that were built in the mid-50s, and trying to maintain those campuses, especially as they become full with 700 and something kids on each campus, they get worn down. And so to directly answer your question, I wouldn't be asking for the position if we didn't need it. The position took them a long time to get. It's valuable, it's appreciated. And again, these positions, well, we're talking about the skilled maintenance covered by CSEA, and in a reduction environment, CSEA and KFDA gratefully played ball. They had a lot of opportunity to not trust the fact that, you know, we had an obligation or need given the information at the time, because they knew, because of the last time when we took a reduction plan, that when we could bring back the positions, we did. And so that is the way in which we have the trust built with our organizations, that when we have to do some painful things, we get support, because we know that they know we don't take it lightly, and they know that when we do have the ability to bring it back, that we do. And so that's where we're at.
My second question is that, you know, I support this, but you put that the district office administrative assistant would cost $98,000 or such to bring back. But I was confused because it said on one document that it was an administrative assistant, and then on another document it said district office clerk. So I was confused whether it was a CSEA position or if it was a confidential management position. I assume that there's a difference between an administrative assistant and a district office clerk in the title. So I was kind of confused on that. I seen two different titles. So I'm trying to figure out if this is a title under CSEA or is this a title,
the district office positions have been and continue to be a confidential classified position. They are not covered by CSEA. CSEA and the district had conversations about that a number of years back and came to an agreement that because of the type of business being conducted in the district office, that those would be confidential classified positions.
So why are we calling it a district office clerk? Because normally clerks
I don't have the title in front of me, sir, but if it was a mistake, then I'll take the heat on that, okay? I believe that it was a district office clerk. It's listed here as district office clerk that I'm seeing, but I don't have the prior stuff in front of me. But needless to say, there's two of those positions in the district office. One of them has been cut earlier and is on the list here to be rescinded if the board is so okay to do.
Yeah. So I have the original reduction plan, and it's noted as a district office clerk.
Okay, well then it's consistent.
So are we looking to hire an administrative assistant back, or are we looking to hire a district office clerk, which the pay is different if you look at the pay scale?
The district office clerk was reduced, and the district office clerk is being asked to be rescinded back.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't have any more questions.
All right, any other questions from any other board members or any need for clarification? Okay.
No, it's clear. Thank you.
I think it's important just to kind of further add that, you know, this isn't a full rescinding of all items that were cut from the original plan. I think that number was probably closer to 6.4 million if I'm correct. So we're only bringing back a small portion of what was rescinded, and I will share with you that, you know, I did sit with Mr. Coleman and we did go line by line, and then we did look at the items, and we looked at what was more vital to instruction, and then, you know, and that's how the list came to fruition. So so I'm okay with the reduction plan and rescinding some of these items.
Is it possible that next time that we kind of all can preview the items as a board and determine, you know, what our goals are for the district? I know that you said you and Mike got to talk about it, but you know, I think that
it was on the agenda. I mean, you guys all got the agenda ahead of time. So, I mean, I think that's the opportunity for you to kind of go back and look at the list and say, hey.
But I'm talking about discussing it all together as the 5 of us. That's what I'm talking about.
So that's where we're at right now. And that's the purpose of the conversation. So this is the moment where if you're not okay with it is where you say, hey, you know what, we should probably add, we should probably change, we should probably do X, Y, and Z. So my role in all of this is help prepare the information for the board. And then in these settings, the board has that conversation. So this is your opportunity. If you feel that something doesn't need to be on it, then this is where you'll make that statement.
I think that everything that is on there, especially Rosetta Stone, after we had determined that that was a vital program for our newcomers, for that to be cut, you know, that was a concern to me. Also, you know, the district office clerk, you know, visiting the district office and coming in to meet with someone, and you know, there's not enough staff to take my temperature or what have you. That really shows the need. So there's a lot of things there, and those were my concerns. And Avid was another concern that I had. So most of the vital programs that I were looking at are on that list. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So if there are no questions, I'll ask for a motion to take action on this item.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I believe that was 5-0.
That I have.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Let's move into educational services. Give us not necessarily a quick update, but bring us up to speed in regards to the reopening plan for Fairfax.
Yes. Laura, do you have the presentation at all close by to you? I'm just curious here. I'm going to have to get it up on the screen. If not, bear with me for just a minute here if I can find it on the drive. This is what I always have. The problem is I always have a problem with it disappearing in my drive. Laura, do you have the title?
I'm looking for it right now.
Mr. Coleman, it's called September board meeting.
Got it. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring this up on the screen, and we will get moving on that right now. So to prime the pump here, the board has had approved a reopening plan district-wide. It was approved in late January, or excuse me, late July. And inside of that, the board chose the multi-option option where there were 3 different parent choices. 4 days per week on campus, which is and 1 day per week distant learning, and that was a full classroom. We assumed somewhere between 3 and 6 foot distancing. We assumed that students and teachers were all wearing masks 100% of the time. We also said, well, we could also do an A-B cohort, which was 2 days on campus and then 3 days of distance learning. And then also the parents also had a 5 day per week full distance learning option. Shortly after that happened, the governor made the decision for us that we were going to be closed, and we said we're closed for the quarter. So why is there a need to change? So all learning model options have since been somewhat impacted by further clarification that social distancing is really the clarifying and defining point when it comes to how they define exposures and then related closures. So anything that cannot be looked at a 6 foot distance scenario is really not going to work, especially if we're going to apply for a waiver because they'll just dismiss that out of hand. it eliminates then the possibility of that 4-day-a-week full 30-to-1 return, 3 foot to 5-6 foot, distancing. We also had not considered or moved forward on another model because at the time we didn't believe it to be viable and how we would be able to actually operate it. But clarification then on transportation ridership and acquisition of cleaning, sanitizing equipment, fog misters that we've acquired that allow for the application of chemical or whatever you want to call it, the product, sanitation products in a very quick and efficient manner. And then in purchase of individual desk cubbies and teacher barriers with alike became a little bit more reasonable for us to vet out. And then as we vet that out with transportation and our administrative team, it became more and more clear that we could actually do this and it would answer a lot of our concerns. And I would imagine that everybody, stakeholder-wide concerns related to kids on campus and synchronous. So I'll move down and say, here's what we're looking at. Board is still going to need to choose an option because I like that the board has the option to discuss. But you can't have a multiple 3-choice option on this. We either can consider the hybrid AB, which is the middle one here, because that's what you're most familiar with. That would be 2 days on campus all day, and then 3 days off campus. It would be a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. It's as was presented in the original plan. Then we could also consider an AM/PM on-campus plan. That would provide every student on campus for 3 hours every day, Monday through Friday. So instead of 2 days on and 3 days off, you would get 5 half days every day. It would provide, again, both of these options provide for the availability of social distancing. And again, no matter which one you choose, face coverings, we're going to follow the CDHP guidelines on face coverings. And so everybody's going to be required unless they have a medical condition, and then they are exempt. Let's talk about the AM/PM. What this does and why this is somewhat, there's goods and bads to everything. The goods on this would be with every student coming for 180 minutes of on-site live instruction. At the very most, for 4th through 8th grade, students would be required to do 60 minutes of asynchronous time when they get home. So basically 60 minutes of iReady or some other non-teacher, live teacher directed learning for kids 4th through 8th grade. For 1st through 3rd, 50 minutes. And then TKK, no requirement for synchronous or asynchronous at all. They will have met their minutes by just coming to school for the day. That answers a lot of concern, especially since synchronous distance learning for that group of kids that are coming on an AM/PM schedule no longer is necessary. Synchronous would still be necessary for the group of students whose parents said, nah, I want to keep them full distance learning. And so that program, no matter which one the board chooses, is always going to have to be an option by the governor's order. So there's the two differences. And then it was meant to be grayed out here. It's not a third option. Full-time distance learning will be a component of both of these top two. But those are the options that we're going to ask the board to consider. We kind of were fooling around and started asking ourselves our questions, and then some of the administrators asking ourselves our question, and teachers union people and CSEA asking questions. And so we just started answering them. And so, 8 to 11, and then from 11 to 12:30, we go through a hectic time of sanitation and getting the kids to and from school. And then they would go from 12:30 to 3:30. We would always try to accommodate parent requests on the AM or PM, but cannot be guaranteed given we have to fill up the classes accordingly. Siblings will always be attempted and will give first priority to be in the same cohort, AM or PM. Will students have to participate in distance learning in the AM PM model? Again, we went over that depending on their grade level. Only synchronously, only asynchronously, no synchronous. Transportation is provided. It has to be very structured. I know that we've had conversations about the need to, kind of fill out a form to let us know that they're going to be transporting. It's not like, hey, sorry, you didn't get your form in time and you can't. Really, it goes down to knowing who our ridership is going to be, so we know how many routes that we're going to have to plan. And we also have to understand and be prepared for contact tracing in the event of how we, if a person becomes infected. So all of that is kind of the reason behind transportation. Yes, classrooms and buses are going to be sanitized between the cohorts. We talked about masks. Yes, all students must wear a mask at all times, teachers as well. Student has a medical exemption.
Okay, wait, hold on. You said all students.
Uh-huh.
The last I heard was K through 2 did not have to wear masks. So is it now K through 2 also are wearing masks?
2 years, we looked at the most recent guidance that came out. And in regards to, I think it was 2 months to second grade, no, 2 years, 2 months to 2 years was no mask for preschool and the like. There was definitions of up to second grade, but given the fact that it was vague in second grade, I'm just going to say we will follow the CDHP guidelines of the county health. But right now, it looks as if second grade and up would be wearing, have to be wearing, no, excuse me, I'm saying this wrong.
Here, the California Department of Public Health says no face covering requirements for under 2 years.
Under 2 years, there we go.
It's strongly encouraged for 2 to second grade.
That's right.
Third grade through high school, they have to wear a face covering.
So for us, when you can be highly encouraged, where the heck now? What is it? Oh heck. All right, it's September. Sorry guys, I don't know what just happened here. Here we go. So yes, given that, it would still be our want that everybody, except for those with a medical issue, wear masks. If the board wants to further clarify, and as long as it falls within, in my opinion, as long as we're following CDHP as Mr. Moreno just shared it, then I'm good to go.
So I know that we had brought up a mask board policy. So would we have to change or alter that policy to fit the guidelines of public health?
I looked at the policies that the board has adopted. There was a mitigation policy that was adopted. I had my administrator read it, and there was no specific direct guidance on everybody must wear a mask 24/7. There was discussions, and that's why I'm going to share with you later, or at least share with you our reopening plan deal, is that we would make some adjustments specifically because you've brought that up, and we agree that it's vague. And so we would bring that up in the reopening plan that, in requirements to masks and when and where and the like, so that it's not confusing. The only issue that's not brought up, and so we are using the county SOUP's guidance for their office staff, is when you have administrative offices and the like that are not necessarily part of an everyday school campus environment, we're following their guidelines, and I think I've shared that with the board. But direct answer, Mr. Mullen, is I think that the adjustment to the reopening plan will have to, and we have the suggested changes. We're not showing it to you here, but we'll show it to you, and you can see that it's going to clarify for your concern.
What's also important, is that, because we have, I think we all have like an image of what a mask looks like. And I think the guidelines clearly state it could be, it's face covering. So that could be cloth, that could be, and that could be a face shield. And what's also, I think, important, and what the state has kind of put out in terms of setting some definitive rules for schools is that it also requires schools to exclude students from campus if they're not exempt and refuse to wear a mask.
That's correct.
So
Yeah,
this-
it's not even a defiance thing anymore. It's, you can exclude kids that are refusing to wear a mask. Yes, that is true.
well, again, it doesn't say it can, it says must.
Yeah. Well, for me, being able to do that is a whole different world than what we were at when it was defined. Yeah.
The point really is that the state of California is telling us
Yep.
that you have to do this.
That's right. And so, and when you get, I'm going to email out to the board the proposed draft, revision to the reopening plan. The changes will be in red. Really, it's all about just the delivery model and really the PPE. And if you have suggested changes, that's what I'm looking for. That's why I'm, as a board member, we're here not taking action tonight. So please, when you get it, review it. If you believe that there's language that should be clarified further, let me know. And if you have suggested, here, please let me know. That's how we work together, and that would be appreciated.
I just want to make sure that we're clear though, because I think in your slide deck, a couple slides up, you mentioned how, or I think you said that there had to be a 6-foot distancing between desks.
Right.
That was the old guideline, and that's not part of the new guideline. So I just want to make sure that we're accurate in what we say, because I imagine somebody from the community is going to say that is not what we're being told.
I believe it says where feasible or where,
right.
But the question is going to be is that we've gone into our classrooms and we know that we can 6-foot distance based upon these, type of delivery models.
Yeah.
We know that we cannot on the 4-day, 30, full 30 per classroom type of design. We cannot.
So not questioning the plan, but I just want to make sure we're very clear on the reasoning behind our decisions, because we just want to make sure that we don't say, because there you go, you have Kern County Public Health Department clarification of 6-foot distancing related to defining exposure. The 6-foot rule really applies to staff and students, so that has to be maintained.
Right.
Kids don't have to be necessarily 6 feet apart, but they should be
where you can, yeah.
Where you can. So just make sure we're clear on that, because I imagine somebody will challenge that.
And in fairness, how I would have lost this bet in Vegas. In fairness, we had the actual language right here where this link is. And just because of the length of the presentation, we put the link, but you brought it up, and so you're correct. That is exactly the language, and we would use that language effectively accordingly, because the link would be attached as well. So yes, I agree. Going back down here then, so again, we plan to present a reopening plan, revised reopening plan that's approved, that can, to the best of our ability, provide for 6-foot distancing in classrooms and in, when they're in walking and general population areas. We are continuing to work and seek engagement. We have met with KFDA, CSCA. We're talking right now. And then tomorrow morning, a parent survey will go out. And using our platforms, we're convinced, and I know with the interest of the parents involved, I know that we will get a very strong response. So really what we're going to ask the board is, we need a decision on which one, AM, PM, or AB. And here's the thing. We're not asking for a decision tonight, but as soon as we can get a viable return on asking the parents their opinions on AB or AM, PM, and the like, the board is going to need to make a decision, because I cannot submit a waiver in any way, shape, or form without a reopening plan. If I present it with the current one, it's not going to be approved. So the thought here is trying to get a 2-week notice to everybody and gear up for on-campus instruction by the 19th of October. We would need 2 weeks. And so we're hoping to get an approved waiver by the 3rd, which means you need to get a waiver submitted somewhere around the 26th, I think I remember the calendar to be. So to do that, the board is gonna need to meet in a special meeting to take action on this. You're gonna be requested or asked to take a special meeting because we're going to have to approve the new and improved LCAP, the learning continuity attendance plan. That is the bridge document to the actual LCAP. We could not approve it tonight because it needed a separate hearing. We couldn't put it on the last agenda because the template wasn't out yet. So that you can thank the state for creating the need on the special meeting for the LCAP document. So we're thinking that it's best that since we're going to have to meet in a public special meeting to approve the LCAP by September 30, if we could potentially meet sometime late next week, very early, maybe 21st, 22nd, to take action on a revised reopening plan. So
I have a question. Where's special ed in all of this? Because I know that they were talking about special ed being able to open sooner. Is that still the case, or that's not the case?
What you're talking about is the small cohorts guidance that came out and has been, I think, revised daily. Yes, certain components of special ed, not all special ed. It has everything to do with what the district's particular setups are by facilities, by staffing, and by the type of students served. In a very quick outline, the small cohorts came out that the state would allow small groups of instruction in a manner of up to no more than 14 students to 2 adults. And then clarified that says that if you need specifically because of type of student, more adults, then you could do more adults, but could at no time go over the 16 total, but you'd have to have a justifying reason why you're using more adults to a smaller ratio.
So we will be allowed then to begin with assessments.
You can, yes, you can. What that will allow to do is you can, once you bring back, and I'm not prepared to speak specifically on special ed related guidelines recordedly, but my understanding is yes, you can bring back for assessment that which you can assess. And the deal is once you bring back, then you have a 30-day window by which to get it done. So the answer shortly is yes. We're also seeing that we're going to benefit by having the language assessment testing that was really needing to be done in person. That's going to be able to be done, which is great. But in regards to special ed, it's looking more like we're going to be able to create cohorts that speak to SDC, our SDC program. RSP is very problematic because they are also mainstreamed into regular education and participating in those in that distance learning environment, and that our SDC teachers, RSP moves into SDC, and then so a blending is very difficult to account for when you're trying to create cohorts, and the amount of personnel becomes very problematic. So after a number of days of reviewing it, we've actually spoke with legal services to review to make sure that we're doing it right, because special ed is litigious. They're looking at our draft cohorts right now. We're looking to discuss finally with each of our special ed teachers tomorrow and Monday. We are hopeful to bring back small cohorts of specific special ed related services on the 21st.
Okay. So for me, if you can just write these questions down and prepare some answers, and then we can continue this conversation. But for me, I'd be interested in knowing how many districts have applied for waivers. Because thus far, I know there's been a handful of approved waivers, but most of them are like charter or religious schools. So I'd like to know how many waivers, how many districts are applying for waivers, and then both option 1 and 2. How would it impact? How is it going to impact all other services? So back to special ed. What's custodian work going to look like? What's the lunchroom going to look like? So it'd be great to get an understanding of what those departments, or how those departments are going to be impacted.
So. Very good.
Good.
Oh, I have a question. Will the junior high, for say the AM, PM, A and B, will they be following a similar schedule that they are following currently for distance learning? I mean, I'm just saying because it's 3 hours.
Yeah, the junior high is an animal all into itself.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to steal somebody's thunder, but I will say that in conversation with a teacher in the junior high, they're saying, we're closer to a high school than an elementary, obviously, right? So we will have to have in-depth conversations with with Wendy, the administration over there, and with teachers about how best to how most efficiently to work that 3 hours of time every day and by period. There's going to be people that tell you, hey, we want our teachers coming to the kids. And then there's going to be teachers and people saying it's not viable because you've got, space needs and contract considerations about, where that teacher effectively then doesn't have a space by which to do a curriculum development, lesson planning, distance learning. Anyway, there's a lot to it. That being said, the short answer to your question is we can't ignore junior high. I just can't give you the exact answer right now.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a challenge in itself because again, part of the guideline says that everybody needs to be confined and fixed to a room.
Yeah, and I just brought that up because I'm just wondering, will that affect the waiver in any way? If there isn't a plan in place, where to put the students and so on, going with either an AMB or AMPM.
What's great about using our legal team has developed a program by which they actually are drafting or helping districts draft and then legalizing it, so to speak, and reviewing it for what you just said, Mr. Moreno. Hey, you got to do this, that, or this isn't going to fly, this, that. What I want to do is if we decide to put a waiver in, I do not want to be denied based upon something that we didn't do right, so to speak. And here we got districts around us. I will try to find out which district. I'll take a poll of surrounding districts or districts, as many as I can find out of who are going to be applying. And I'll try to get that information. And then again, how are other services on, what the impacts are totally. I'll try to paint that picture for you as complete as I can.
Take your time. And then lastly, and then we can move on, is I'm curious of so I'd be curious to know what is the level of participation for full distance learning for grade levels, because I mean, right off the back, K through third, I would imagine if I had to just, share my opinion without upsetting anybody on my views on this, but I would imagine, there's more of a rush to get those younger students into a classroom setting because they might have, less of an attention span to be sitting in front of a computer and so forth. So those are in my opinion, those would be ones that probably should come back to the classroom. And then you have those older students who might be in 7th grade, who I would imagine should be, and again, I don't work at the 8th grade or junior high, but I would imagine 7th and 8th graders should be a little more responsible to where they could, manage life remotely and participate in full distance learning. And so I'm just curious of what the participation rate is between the two of them.
I'll get you the K 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Mindful that if we're coming back under a waiver, we can only bring back K through 6. 7, 8 have to stay FDL anyway. So yeah, okay, very good.
Right.
All right. So just needed to put this on here to prime the pump, knowing that a decision is going to have to become. I will again send out the revised draft reopen plan so you can make comments, and then. I'm sorry, I keep saying K. It's because I'm old. It's TK through 6. And then, again, we need to pick a date for a special meeting. Do you think we can do that now, or do you want to do that at the end of the meeting?
Let's do it at the end, and that way, as we're going through, folks can check their calendar so we can keep moving. All right. So thanks for that. All right. We have a couple public hearings that we need to open up. I could run both of them concurrently, correct?
I do not know the answer to that question. I guess you could, as long as you say you were opening up a public hearing for the express purpose of both of these items, so the minutes can reflect that. Yeah.
Well, for the sake of, I know we've done it in the past, but just to be safe, let's go ahead and start with the LCAP public hearing. So let's go ahead and open that one up for 6 at 6:29. And we'll give it a minute or so and see if there's any public comments.
Okay. And then
I'll fill my coffee cup.
while we're waiting on a public comment, can I say that I very much apologize, but certainly needs to be stated that we were recognized by the county superintendent in a couple of areas, received letters from. One, humbly, was that I sat and was thanked because I sat on the county return to school task force. Part of the county guidance on reopening schools was I sat on that committee and chaired one of the subcommittees. And so that was recognized. And then more importantly, and very proud moment was that we were recognized that Fairfax played a very important role in the rolling out countywide of the Canvas distance learning platform in under, from 0 to 100 miles an hour in 2 seconds. 6 of our teachers, Bobby Martinez, Kristen Rodman, Nina Huff, Renee Wells, Saida Boland, and Stephanie Noy. They were all on those county curriculum committees and designing curriculum for for districts around the county. And so I really that was a proud moment when we received that in recognition that, we're not only affecting Fairfax, we got people that are doing the job countywide. And so I'm just real proud and want to say thank you and recognizing them. Sorry, I missed that in my recognition earlier. So, okay.
All right, just a reminder that we are in a public hearing for the LCAP plan. Any comments, any feedback? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the board? All right, so let's go ahead and close that meeting, Mike, at 6:31. It was opened at 6:29.
Okay.
All right, and we will open up the second public hearing, which is the sufficiency of instructional materials. So it's 6:31 on that. So let's leave that one open for about a minute or so.
Okay.
At this point, I'll ask if there are any public comments related to the resolution 2021-03. There's nobody in your waiting room or nothing like that, Mike? Making sure. All right, well, as much as I'd love to keep this hearing open for the next 15 minutes, I think we've been here long enough. So let's go ahead and close it at 6:32 because there are no public comments. All right, so with that, we'll move on and we will accept the superintendent's recommendation for resolution 2021-03. If there are no questions in regards to the resolution, I'll ask for a motion to take action on it.
First motion.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is Virginia still around?
Virginia, do you hear us?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 5-0. And with that, we'll move into a couple of board policies.
All right. So I'm looking at the board policy. Before the board, one of the, it's been a conversation, let's say that that board members should be allowed to call individually and speak to the board attorney on items. And traditionally, and past practice wise, and pretty much universally, it is that board presidents or superintendents are offered the ability to meet with legal counsel. It is up to the board's decision. What I have provided for the board, and let me make sure I'm sharing the screen here.
Sharing it. Or you were sharing it.
Hang on. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I have provided is the actual board policy that exists for the district. That which is stricken out is, and that which is underlined. So if we add the underlined and strike out the strikeout, then the district will be exactly by CSBA model policies. And there would be no confusion about that. That, you know, CSBA's model is a model that they suggest districts up and down the state operate under. Districts can amend policies. I'm not saying you can't. You can see that the only difference from us and CSBA was this down here on this line, second line, individual board members other than the board and president. The reason I've got to say that when we moved over in 2010 from the large paper binders, there has to have been a mistake and that not make it, you know, somehow or another that got carved out or something, because it's just everything else pretty much very similar. But that being said, I provided this for your discussion board and it's your call how you want to do that.
So I'll kind of give the background and then I'll let Mr. Mullen talk a little bit about it, because this had been his request for some time, is that the board members have access to legal counsel at their own discretion to ask their own questions. You know, going back and taking a look at the board policy, we realized that it was a bit unclear, and it maybe have led to a different impression of the board's past practices. So what what was asked was that we go back, clean up the policy, make sure it's very clear that you know, all requests for legal counsel or for all requests to solicit advice from legal counsel should go through a board president or superintendent. And the idea behind that is to ensure that legal counsel is representing the board as a whole, and they're providing legal advice for interests of the board as a whole, not as an individual person. So anyways, so we went back, rewrote it, and this is what or I should say not rewrote it, but just added an extra line to clarify that piece of it. I know that I've solicited policies from other districts in our surrounding areas, and this is exactly aligned with every other district in Kern County, that individual board members do not seek advice from district legal counsel on matters of business unless they're authorized by a majority of the board. So the idea behind it is that if a board member does want to seek out legal advice, then, you know, that request should come back to the board. The board should vote on it, and if the majority of the board agrees, then, you know, then individual board member can access legal counsel. So that's the intent of it. But I'll let Mr. Mullen kind of share his thoughts on this.
Okay, so there has been, you know, a couple of board members that we have had questions, and those questions normally can be shared with the board president or superintendent. I know sometimes, sometimes it's very hard to reach the board president, or the superintendent does not want to make that choice. He rather the board president make the decision. But upon that, you get people that state when a member is not able to ask a question, then you get people in public comment, or you get people from the outside stating that you violated this policy or this civil section code, when that probably could have been on the board member's mind as a question to ask legal counsel to avoid that matter. And to speak now, I think that the board should allow the members to speak with legal counsel, but just inform them basically on the question regarding what they're questioning legal counsel about. Therefore, that they're in the loop, and it doesn't require necessarily the board president or superintendent to be the ones who are making that ultimate decision, because sometimes you know, they're not able to respond as quickly as needed. So that was my main concern. And like now, you know, there's questions that have arose, especially when you get people in public comment that are stating board members have violated certain section codes and certain civil codes. That is something that hasn't happened before. And, you know, definitely we need to consult with legal counsel to make sure what those codes are and how to avoid violating such codes.
Okay. Understood. Okay. So the any other additional comments on this topic? Because there is a recommendation to accept the language as written in the revised policy that limits you know, limits access to legal counsel other than by the board president or superintendent. So we can, if there are no questions, I'll ask for a motion to take action on the revised policy.
I'll make a motion to accept the change to the policy.
I'm going to request that we bring this policy back at a later time because of the current circumstances where legal counsel is involved. So I would ask that this be brought back, or legal counsel may not be able to speak with certain board members, or board members may not be comfortable going forward with speaking with them at this time. So I would ask that this policy come back at a later time.
Does someone want to second bringing it back, or
I second.
well, second on the
Second on the motion that
accept?
to accept, yes.
Okay, so there's two motions to proceed with taking action. So the action is on the table. So all in favor of accepting the policy?
Repeat that, Javier.
I said, so there's both, you made the first, Virginia made the second to take action on approving the policy. So I'll ask
Yes.
to approve the policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I'm going to say no, because I would like to request to bring it back under the certain circumstances that are going on right now. It would be best to bring it back, or else it may create a future violation. So I'm just asking for the board to maybe bring this one back at a later time, or else I'm going to possibly be violating a board bylaw, which I'm trying to avoid not doing.
Got it. Okay, so we'll look at it at another time when you're ready. So I heard Virginia, I heard Victoria. Alma, was it an aye or?
Aye.
Okay, so
Aye.
that's 4 ayes and then 1 no from Mr. Mullen. Okay, so that's 4-1. All right, moving into the next policy as well, or I should say next conversation. Mike, if you just want to brief us on this really quick.
Yeah, this was an item that a board member has brought, wanting the board to go into a closed session prior to the personnel section whenever there is hiring, so that the board can, I guess, discuss my recommendations prior to taking action.
So obviously, Mr. Mullen, this was your request as well. So you want to brief the board on the intent?
Okay, I'm going to brief the board on the intent, because this has caused a lot of issues, a lot of controversy, and it has caused a lot of animosity. I know that I've received calls from parents, I've received calls from teachers, and they really feel like this is creating the board meeting in a negative direction and it's turning it into more of a personnel matter than actually us discussing students. So I was advised by council that a way to avoid this would be to go into closed session and then come out. I did read several letters where teachers were not aware that things had been requested to be taken off the agenda, and they continue to write letters and berate board members because they thought that we were going to move forward with certain personnel actions. So I think it's best that we go into closed session and come out and report just to alleviate some of the controversy or misunderstanding that's going on. I think we should, go into closed session and come out and report our vote to avoid a lot of these negative stigmas that are going on, especially for me who has a child. And when I see a teacher use the school database to send out multi-mass messages, if it affects me, it affects my child, and I don't think that that's fair. And it's a result from a personnel matter. So I wouldn't like anyone else's child to have to go through that, or their teacher to have to read something about their parent. So that's why I'm asking for the board to consider going into closed session, and it will avoid people making the assumption that board members are against certain staff members or that they're targeting certain staff members. It's just too much going on right now in respect to personnel. And I think to alleviate some of all of that, we need to just go into closed session, at least give it a try to see how it works to alleviate a lot of this stuff going on. Again, like I said, I will submit several letters for public record. And again, I have received calls from parents and teachers very concerned about this matter and think that that is the best solution. So it's not just me, but it is parents and teachers that are concerned with this matter.
No, Beans, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Mullen has given his opinion. My opinion is that through our training and workshops that we've been through, we've been advised not to micromanage the district, and hiring practices are typically and on your contract for the superintendent to do. So I am not in favor of going into closed session for it, because we have empowered and should back up the superintendent to do his job effectively. And you've been doing a wonderful job. And that is my opinion.
And I'm going to say that not every personnel decision within the last year has had a 5-0 vote, and that has led to criticism and berating of one board member. So it's just a thing that we can try. If it doesn't work, then we can always go back. Not saying that we're micromanaging, but I'm saying that there is a big mountain and there's a big issue and problem that has occurred and that is occurring. And to minimize that and bring it down, we need to take action. And again, there's letters that are mass letters that are going out to the teachers and different staff, and it's just a big issue. So, I've given my statement, and I will again submit those letters for public comment, and you can read them and see how board members have been berated and how some people have misunderstood actions taken by the board. So that's all I can say. We're going to vote the same way. It's just if we have a debate or we have something to discuss with the superintendent that it will be discussed with him, and we're still going to come out with the same resolution. But, any, discussion will be between us, and then we'll come out and report as we do with the superintendent contract. So I'm just asking at this time that we try to do something new to minimize what's going on currently.
Yeah. So I'm trying to understand the job positions, or which job positions you want to go into a closed session for, because we already go into closed sessions for administrative positions. So I imagine you're interested in when we hire teachers, because I think that's when most of the controversy has been.
Yes. You're absolutely correct.
Okay. So I mean, my feedback on all of this is that, and this is not to be, I mean, I respect your request, but my feedback is that, don't forget that we've all taken, we've all taken an oath. We've chose to go and put our lives out there in front of the public, and sometimes that subjects us to criticism, and that's just part of what we signed up to do. And over the years, trust me, I've received my fair share of criticism as well. And I've kept on because I've been confident in some of the decisions, I've made. So for me, as a community member, I would be a bit concerned when somebody I elected is going to try to go and, shy away from some of the criticism. But I get what you're saying. But you did. Well, so we'll leave it at that. Okay, so this was a voting item, and this was, again, asked by Mr. Mullen to consider going into a closed session anytime we hire staff. But I would imagine that you probably shouldn't single it to teachers. You should, because that gives the wrong message.
Or single it to all personnel. At this time, and again, if you, I understand that we will be criticized, and I understand that that will happen, but it has went a bit overboard, and when we're talking about litigation and different things like that, I can't remember the last time I've seen something like that, or I don't remember the last time a teacher used the school database to send out mass messages in regards to board members' decision-making on personnel issues when they have a child or student in the school. I just don't think that that's a fair opportunity for the student if their teacher is getting negative remarks and things like that. But again, this is a board decision. I thought I would just bring it up, and if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, then we will just have to continue with the criticism that is brought forward, and I will continue to make those public documents, those documents public, because again, I've been reached out by teachers and I've been reached out by parents. So that's the reason why I kind of stress the issue. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Perfect. All right, so we'll move for the voting item, but there's a bit of sarcasm and kidding with you in this, and say, when you get a chance, talk to Virginia and some of the older teachers, and you're not the only one that's been given a hard time right now. They have some great stories, but it's just part. I get it, Palmer. It's just part of what we do. Okay, so with that, I'll ask. This is a voting item. So first, I'll ask a motion if whether or not we should take action on going into a closed session prior to a personnel section. So if there is no motion to take action, then the item dies. If there is a motion to take action, then we vote on whether or not we approve going into a closed session. So two parts there. So I'll first ask, is there a motion to take action on this item?
No.
No.
I think there's a motion to take action on this item, and
Okay, so you want to give the motion to take action?
yeah, I'll submit a motion to take action on this item.
Is there a second action or a second motion to take action? Okay. So hearing that there is no second motion to take action, I think we'll conclude that the item dies here.
Dies.
Yeah, and then we'll go back and take a look at it at a later time. You can always bring items back at later on, Palmer. Don't forget that.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, with that, we'll move into, we have a closed session.
Yes, there we go, breakout rooms. I am going to send the board into a breakout room and the rest of everybody, just to know that we are coming, we're going into closed session to discuss some parameters related to negotiations. And we'll come back out and most likely just adjourn. So we'll see who's here when we get back. But give me a couple of seconds here so that I can get us into the breakout room.
Mimi, I can't Nick.
Yeah. Austin.
Palmer.
Austin.
No, I'm
here.
Fine.
Leave me alone.
Palmer, it's not allowing me to move you into a breakout room. It's not seeing you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Your name is not coming up as somebody. Make sure that you're. There you are. Assign a breakout room. Here. Well, let me do it this way. I'm going to move everybody into the waiting room because the breakout room is not acknowledging a single one of you. Weird. So let me move everyone into.
Good luck on that.
Somehow or another, I thought we should be able to move everybody. Or we'll just have to log everybody out and I'll send the board a new link.
Or you leave everybody logged in and I'll send you a Zoom link. We can go into my account.
Yeah, we can do that too. Either way.
What? You're unmuted.
Weird. All right, so.
You want to be muted or unmuted?
Actually, I think if
I
you,
was muted. You're not.
I think you have to be part of this meeting in order for the meeting to run.
What's that? No, I have alternatives. Laura, if I were to leave, Laura becomes the meeting manager.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is you can leave the meeting and then send out a new link and then we
Yeah.
can go to that meeting and then we can come back and join this meeting.
That's correct.
But if it doesn't work, don't blame me.
Yeah, let me do that. I'll create a new meeting right now. Closed session at 6:58. Okay. Let me go in and invite you all.
If you have, well, never mind, go ahead.
What do you got?
Never mind. I was going to ask you to send it to my work email because I'm still at work, but never mind. I have my personal emails opened up. That's fine.
Okay. And Victoria. Okay, so I just sent you all a link. And I am going to leave now and go open up that meeting.
You sent, are you sure about the link? Oh, there it is. There it is. All right.
Got it? Okay, so I'm gonna leave and.
Okay. 9:59.